Trigger warning, the following slides contain discussion of the Holocaust, the historical enslavement of Black people, and animal agriculture. Okay. And they make out like as if it's like, oh my God, they're talking about slavery. Now I'm having flashbacks to like when I was a slave or something. I don't know. Hi, I'm Emily Walsh and I'm with Patricia, that vegan lawyer. If you want to check out her channel and like this video and subscribe, do that now. In today's video, we're going to be discussing whether veganism is a white privileged thing
or issue, or if it's even a thing, basically.
Awesome. So, Patricia, tell me about what veganism is.
So, veganism is basically a moral philosophy that is dedicated to not harming animals as far as practically possible. So it really doesn't have anything to do with race, gender, or any of this other identity politics that we're seeing inside the vegan movement, but also outside of it in other spheres in society.
Whether that is, okay, let's discuss whether white privilege actually exists. Does it actually exist? I'm gonna put it towards that vegan lawyer because she's a lot smarter than I am.
Not true, but okay, so when we're discussing privilege and
she hasn't seen my high school results.
Oh, I'm sure they're fine. So when we're discussing whether privilege exists, in particular whether white privilege exists, I think the short answer, based on the research I've done and the types of thinkers that I have listened to, it does exist, but a range of other privileges also exist. For example, the privilege of being female in a Western society, the privilege of being Asian, for example. So there are all these other privileges that exist for each demographic, but they're not discussed. So when you have one privilege that might exist, like white privilege that is discussed extensively, and then all these other privileges that aren't, it's not a fair representation or exploration of the concept of white privilege. So the short answer is, yes, it probably does exist. There are privileges to being white, but it's not a fair representation because all the other privileges that could exist are also ignored.
I think another thing that we're gonna touch on today, because I think that when people say it's a white privilege thing, I'm not sure about the white thing, but I definitely feel like they're saying that you have to be privileged in order to be vegan. You have to have the money to be able to decide what to eat. But I feel like that isn't the case. So Westerners who think that avoiding meat consumption is a privilege, they're living in a bubble and clearly don't understand meat consumption in most countries is actually a luxury item, if not for people who are wealthy, for at least those who live in wealthy countries. So if we have a look at some of the graphs that we have here, meat consumption by selected countries, you can see US, Brazil, Canada, UK, they're all the highest consuming, like they all consume a high amount of meat. And then on the lower scale is China, Kenya, and India. And they're all from developing countries. And then if we have a look at this one,
so we can see who eats the most meat per country. It's also the highest consumption of meat per country are Western countries. So we can see Australia is the darkest red, and that's 100 to 153. So that's the highest consumption out of all the countries, and same with North America and places in South America. And then the lighter the shade goes, we can see it's more the developing countries that don't consume as much meat.
Like Africa here, you can see here that they are the lightest on the whole map, and they're a developing country. And then we've got Russia and certain other countries that eat a fair bit, but not as much as, Australia and the US and Argentina.
The data on this is very clear. The highest consuming countries of animal products are the most developed and the richest countries, such as America, Europe, and Australia. And the countries that don't consume as much animals tend to be developing countries and countries with not as much resources and money as us.
Okay, and then we've got here, which is meat production. So this is by region. Now I've got the Asian region that produce the least amount. Now obviously Australia, I know, produces a lot, and they're not on here. So they only got a few selected countries. Got Europe, and then North America, which produces a lot. Africa, they produce a lot.
Which is interesting because they don't consume as much, but they still export a lot. And it's a similar situation with India. They're one of the lowest consumers of meat per individual, but the last time I read, they were one of the largest exporters of beef.
Yeah, exporters.
Right, but they don't consume, so it's...
Yeah, and I heard with, correct me if I'm wrong, but with Africa, they grow a lot of food there, but all gets sold to like other countries, and usually the rich people, the richest people there get all the money, and then the poor get even poorer, and they're the ones that are starving.
Yeah.
There's like it's more about the circle of money. You know, the circle of money isn't going through.
And in addition, similar to that, a lot of the poorer developing countries actually sell their wheat and their crops, so we can feed them to our farmed animals that we're going to kill. So it's just this endless cycle.
Yeah. Now we have our computer right here, and Patricia has brought up some really lovely SJW Instagram posts.
Just cringe fest, really. Like, they're just cringe-worthy.
Yeah, we thought we'd end the video.
Why don't we just react to some raw reactions?
So we're gonna have a look at some of these posts, me for the first time, and just capture our reaction just for the end of the video.
We have here a title.
So the issue with white veganism and white supremacy.
The creator is @queerbrownvegan, so let's read the caption. Let's dive into white veganism and white supremacy. Recently there has been an increase of white vegan creators who have been perpetuating and upholding white supremacy, staying silent on social justice issues when asked to speak about it, and comparing traumatic historical events to animals' deaths. All of these characteristics are not new to the movement, but I think it's time to hold people accountable for their actions. If it's one thing that social media has done, it's been to center whiteness in these movements and put these problematic creators on pedestals. First and foremost, white veganism to me is a form of veganism that focuses solely on animal liberation while ignoring the effects of colonization and how it is interconnected in the oppression of humans and animals. Should we stop there because it's a bit long?
Yep, it's really, really... Oh my god, look how long it is!
Okay.
It is so long. Okay, we won't bore you with the whole thing. White veganism, a form of veganism that focuses solely on animal liberation while actively ignoring the effects of colonization and how it is interconnected in the oppression of humans and animals. I don't really understand that, because we always make comparisons to how, you know, if you treat, you know, if you're for human rights, then you should be for animal rights as well. And how you feel about how we treat certain humans, think about how we treat animals now. So I don't really see how that, I don't understand it.
They're asking us to focus on the effects of colonization first and foremost, but colonization is not the only thing that happened historically. You know, white people were oppressed historically as well, maybe not on the scale as others, but every race faced a different type of oppression.
Yeah.
So for just asking us to focus on colonization of black people or whatever it was, it's just a irrational request of animal rights activists. It's got nothing to do with what we're doing, and it's just focus on this one issue, not on anything else that other races might have faced.
I don't understand, because like on an individual level, I understand that you're trying to fight for human rights and stuff, but like in veganism in general, it's like, but veganism for the animals, and people can be made up of many different things. So anyway, furthermore, it portrays human supremacy. How does it portray human supremacy? I don't get it. You'll have to explain it to me.
Furthermore, it portrays human supremacy as the main issue rather than addressing the role of white supremacy in how it operates in creating oppressive hierarchical roles. Human supremacy is the main issue because we are fighting for the rights of animals. Animals are the victims that we're representing. So it is the #1 issue, not white supremacy. And when we look at whether white supremacy exists in our society, I don't find that much evidence for it.
Okay, well, even if white supremacy was a thing, I don't really see how us fighting for animals downgrades like humans. Like, I don't really see how how veganism suppresses humans. I don't know. Anyway, acknowledging white veganism and white supremacy is only the first step to create change within yourself. Commending white supremacy is something many vegans on this platform fail to do so. Okay, let's go on to something else.
I just want evidence for white supremacy, that's all. If you have evidence, then you can join me.
Yeah, for me, I just feel like, well, how is me trying to fight for the rights of animals have any, like, mean that I'm suppressing humans? Is that what it means? Like, we're suppressing humans by not, by sticking up for animals without also sticking up for humans? It's suppressing humans somehow? I don't.
No, it's not. And it's an unfair request, because you never see this request being made of human rights activists to speak up for animals. It's only animal rights activists that need to speak up about white supremacy. So until the same request is made from human rights activists like gay, LGBT, white, anti-racist, whatever, feminists, I don't see why it's just on us to speak up for their movements, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
Also as well, I do want to touch on, like, silence is violence. I've been thinking about this a lot. I feel like if you see something, like something racist, something sexist, like in real life, okay, and you don't say anything, that's more like when it means silence is violence. Like if you see someone getting hit because they're gay or something, then, and you don't do anything about it, that silence is violence. But if you don't if you don't fight for gay rights or fight for racist rights, or if you don't post up stuff, I don't really see how that silence is violence. I think silence is more like when something happens right in front of your face and you don't do anything about it.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's where it really came from, and people are using this silence is violence for a whole, for a thing, which means that if you're not kind of supporting if you're not supporting the cause, then you're being violent by being silent, by not supporting it. But I don't.
Yeah, they got to prove the obligation first. They got to prove why it's an obligation for us to help out these movements.
Yeah.
So to do that, they have to prove that the people that they're talking about are actually oppressed or actually in some way needy of our help. And they haven't done that.
That's the thing. Like, if we're animal rights activists, right? We're asking people to go vegan, but people going vegan has nothing to do with making them into animal rights. If they don't want to fight for animals, they don't have to, but they can just be vegan and not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's debatable whether you have an obligation to speak up for animals or not, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Let's go on to another one. We've got veganism and another one? Really?
Okay, I know, because
let's talk. After we posted about this topic, people had a lot to say. We read your comments, we listened, and we wanted to clarify and explain on some things. The comments we have seen show exactly why this conversation needs to be had. Trigger warning, the following slides contain discussion of the Holocaust, the historical enslavement of Black people, and animal agriculture. Okay. And they make out like as if it's like, oh my god, they're talking about slavery. Now I'm having flashbacks to like when I was a slave or something. I don't know.
the whole, like, they don't have proper arguments. They just have emotional
responses,
guilt and manipulation to try and get people on their side.
Yeah.
But they never ever propose valid arguments, because there is none for like this BS.
Using the word Holocaust and the word slavery. The definition of Holocaust is destruction or slaughter on a mass scale, but when people use this word instead of, for example, genocide or mass murder, they are evoking the idea of the Holocaust defined as the mass murder of Jewish people under the German Nazi regime during the... Well, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we have a textbook definition. I don't know why we're going with some cultural definition. And so what if people always use to compare with that? Why is it offensive? Why is the term nuclear Holocaust offensive or Armenian Holocaust? Because I think they're so much better than animals. Animals are so not worthy enough for this word, which to me is actually offensive, not using the word.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you're comparing it to like all this, and you're like, yes, I am. But Holocaust survivors make these comparisons. Yes, I've made that like with Dr. Alex Hershaft. He actually made this comparison on plant-based news, which was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I saw him speak at Vegan Camp Out in 2019. He's a powerful speaker, amazing activist for farm animal rights movement, I think his organisation is called. Charles Patterson wrote Eternal Treblinka, Our Treatment of Animals and the Holocaust. And there's been quite a few prominent activists who were previously, if not Holocaust survivors, they're Jewish, and they make these comparisons. And this tries to say, oh, they can do it, but you can't, because they have the lived experience. But they don't only do it, they more or less give other people permission to, they're like, use my work, share my work.
Yeah.
They're not putting exemptions on it saying, oh, I'm only doing this, but you can't. So I don't understand why these intersectionals or people think they have more moral authority than people with lived experiences. It doesn't even work by their own logic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
that's what I say as well, Emily. Like, thank you so much for having me on and doing this collaboration with me, because, you know, the type of content and issues I speak of are quite controversial, and it's not something everyone wants to be associated with or brave enough to talk about. So like you said just before, you sort of just want to stay out of it and stuff, but I do think it is important that you're using your voice, and you are, to speak about some of these issues, because arguments really need to stand on their own feet. They shouldn't be reliant on, you know, identity politics or skin color or whatever. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful, and, you know, I'm glad that we're doing this.
Yeah, no, me too. It's really awesome to collab and to make different, see like different points of views, and it's always a good learning experience. So again, if you want to go on to That Vegan Lawyer, check out some of her videos, subscribe to her, and also don't forget, if you want to see more of these videos, please like and subscribe. Put a comment in there of any kind. It just helps the algorithm. And also, outside of YouTube, we both have Instagram. I have a TikTok, and all my other socials will be linked in the description. So don't forget to go through there and follow us with everything. All right, have a good day.